Now, most of us have seen Disney's version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or something like that in the cinemas. But did you know that the original Snow White, it was collected by the Brothers Grimm in Germany in the 1800s? And did you know there's a hotly contested debate between two towns in Germany over who has the real, historical, actual Snow White? Today we're going to learn about the differences between the Disney version and the Brothers Grimm version. And today we're also in Lower am Main, one of the two towns who lays claim to the real historical Snow White. And today we're going to bring the debate to you two and try to settle this once and for all. Which town has the best argument for having the real historical Snow White? But first, if you don't know who the Brothers Grimm are, or you want to learn more about who the Brothers Grimm are, go back and watch my first episode of the Brothers Grimm series, where I go to Steinau, which is their childhood home, and discuss more about the brothers themselves. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be making our way down the German fairy tale route and learning more about the differences of the Brothers Grimm versus the Disney stories, along with a lot of other legends, folk tales, and history throughout the world. So let's get this started. What are the differences between Disney and the Brothers Grimm Snow White? Oftentimes, the Brothers Grimm stories are a lot more grotesque and dark than the Disney ones, and Disney makes those changes probably because they have a younger audience. But as you will see with Snow White, the changes are not as significant as some of the other stories we will get to in later episodes of this series, though the changes are still pretty impressive and interesting. So, what are some of the differences between Brothers Grimm Snow White and Disney Snow White?
In the Disney movie, the queen asks the huntsman to bring back Snow White's heart. But in the Brothers Grimm story, she wants her lungs and liver too. And she cooks them and eats them. I'm actually kind of grateful that Disney left that one out. In the Brothers Grimm tale, when Snow White stumbles upon the Seven Dwarfs' house, it's clean, with everything in its place. In the Disney movie, however, the dwarfs are a pretty messy crew. In addition, when introduced to the dwarfs' home, the story takes on a feel of the Goldilocks story. At least it did for me, because Snow White ends up eating from each of the dwarfs' plates and tests out all the beds. Even the dwarfs' reactions to finding her are a bit reminiscent of Mama and Papa and Baby Bear from that Goldilocks story. In the story, the prince seeks shelter with the dwarfs and then barters for Snow White's coffin. When his men drop the coffin, it then dislodges the apple and Snow White awakens. And as we know in the movie, he really just kisses her and she awakes. But in both versions, regardless, they fall in love instantly. And for the grand finale of the differences, in the Grimm story, the evil queen is invited to the wedding, but is afraid to attend. She probably should have listened to her intuition, because as she arrives, she's placed in hot iron shoes and forced to dance until she dies. In the Disney movie, she runs from the dwarfs and then falls off a cliff, so either way she dies, it's just a little bit more dark and twisted in the Brothers Grimm tale.
So now that you know the major differences between the Brothers Grimm tale and the Disney version, it's time to turn up the heat on this debate. Who has the real Snow White? Now, I told you already I'm in Lower am Main. The other town in this debate is Bad Fieldungen. Both towns are in the same state, Hesse, and both are on the German fairy tale route. So what makes one claim better than the other? Well, sit back, because we're about to examine the cases for both towns in this argument. Don't forget to take notes, because we're going to vote at the end in the comments section who has the true Snow White, Lower or Bad Fieldungen. Since I'm in Lower, you have home field advantage. You're on the clock first. Let's get down and let's debate.
In Lower, there was a baroness, Maria Sophia Margaret Katharina, and she was born in the Prince Elector's castle in Lower am Main in the year 1725. Maria Sophia was generally spoken of as sort of an angel or a kind person. She was known to be charitable towards the poor and the suffering, similar to the Snow White in the stories. Maria Sophia's father was Prince Electors of Mainz and lived in a big castle. Although he wasn't really a king, he must have appeared to the people as king-like, living in such a castle. Her father took a second wife after the death of her mother. Her stepmother was rumored to be overbearing and a bit tyrannical towards her 7 new stepchildren. She clearly showed favoritism toward her children from her first marriage. A giant mirror was also gifted to the stepmother, and it was rumored in the town to be magical, so very similar to the Snow White story there. There's also a rumored story of Maria Sophia fleeing the attacks of her stepmother on a 35-kilometer route out of town, although historically this is highly debatable. You can still hike this supposed route today, though.
All right, now that we've heard Lore's case, we need to hear Bob Fieldingen's case for why it has the real Snow White. But just because I'm filming in Lore, don't sleep on Bob Fieldingen as your selection when it comes time to vote at the end of the video. Bob Fieldingen is home to 18 mineral springs. It is home to mines, and it has a pretty strong case itself. So, does Bob Fieldingen have the real Snow White? Let's find out. Bob Fieldingen is on the clock. Let's hear the argument.
Margaretha von Waldeck was born in Bad Fieldingen in 1553 and was the daughter of a local count. Margaretha's family owned the local copper mine in Bad Fieldingen, which is likely where the Seven Dwarfs piece comes in, as that line of work was known to have an impact to the workers' growth. Margaretha eventually left town and moved to Brussels, where the King of Spain saw her and was infatuated. But as you can guess, the story didn't end well, and this is where it kind of takes a dark turn. The rumors of the time say that the king's family didn't believe she was the right match for the king, and she was slowly poisoned to death. The rumors also say that King Philip's family played a very large role in this poisoning death. And today, Bad Fieldingen is on the German fairy tale route, and you can visit the Snow White house and museum.
Well, those were two very compelling arguments for both Lore and Bad Fieldingen. Now, the evidence that we have out there doesn't really support either claim, but it is fun to think about, even with only anecdotal evidence to support it. So, after hearing both arguments, which town do you think has the claim to the true, real, historical Snow White? So cast your vote in the comments section and let me know which town you think has the real claim. Let the debate rage on. In a later episode, I will go up to Bad Fieldingen because it's quite frankly a very beautiful town and has a lot of history and a lot of other things beyond the Snow White part. But of course, we will talk about Snow White when I go there. So, if you haven't already done so, and you enjoyed this video and my other videos, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share, all of that. And I look forward to bringing you more episodes about Brothers Grimm, but also other areas of folktale, legends, and history. Until next time, adventurers, adventure awaits.